Thank you very much, candidates, for these extremely, actually very fluent and very fluid replies. I am very happy. I am very proud of you guys. Now, we will have a Q&A period between candidates, spectators, and audience. Your Q&A session will be right after this. So, as for candidates, you will have a 6-minute Q&A session between you guys. If you have any questions for any other candidate right now, please raise your hand. Perfect. Essentially, your question, like before you ask your question, just stating the time, 8-second questions, preferably keep it within 10 seconds, 8 seconds. And the answers will be 30-second and will be timed. Questions? Aria. And say who it's directed to.
Pardon?
And say who it's directed to.
Okay. This question is directed toward Jerry. I just wanted to ask, so your 16 plus parties, how do you think that's a valid risk and liability to take as a student union to have students at 16 and 17 in an alcoholic environment?
When I proposed the idea of 16 plus parties, the value I had in mind was inclusivity. That being said, I have, as the coordinator of external affairs and having communicated with many CJEPs around Montreal, I've found out that they do implement 16 plus parties in restaurant bars that have a different kind of alcohol permit and implement the bracelet system in a way that is legal, in a way that complies with the rules and regulations without jeopardizing the environment for the students, regardless of the age. So I believe that 16 plus parties is a totally feasible plan, and it's high time that we implement this in order to make sure that not half of our student population is excluded during events.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Olivia. Yeah.
It can only be to one person?
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, cool. So my question is, what happens if the administration tells you no? How do you react? If the administration just flat out says, no, we're not going to accept a proposal that you had, and I'm going to ask this to Ying.
Well, depending on the proposal, I would have gone to see the respective area of expertise before going to see the administration to see what are the flaws of our proposal. So for example, if I want to organize a talent show, I would go see Trudy and ask her if it's okay, the specific for the logistics. And then if Trudy says no, if Trudy says no before or gives me feedback, I will be able to take the feedback and arrange my proposal so that it's good enough for the administration. I don't think they would ever say no to a student's activity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? I think Honda had a question before. Is it possible? Yes, Honda.
So my question is addressed to the mental health issues in the school, and the question I address is Sophie. So as per se, mental health is completely different, which simple injuries that people may suffer. Those people who suffer mental health issues may be too afraid to ask those questions and seek support from the college. Therefore, why is possible to work in mental health things as well as first aid teams?
Thank you.
I didn't catch the end of the
All right, wait, Honda, could you ask the question but more concisely? Remember that question should be around between.
So she's saying that the mental health program is the same as the first aid teams, but knowing that most people who suffer mental health are too afraid to seek support from the conference or other members, so how she can make that possible?
So first of all, to respond to that, what we want is a peer support program. So peer support group is where like-minded individuals can come and seek help and not talk only about their mental illness, but what their passion is. So basically, it's a group where people can feel comfortable talking about their personal issues. And of course, the people that were part of this program will undergo mental health first aid training, and that's where the first aid component comes.
Thank you. Candidates, as much as I understand the need to finish your answers. However, to save time and for everyone to speak, we really appreciate it if you could stop like when the gavel starts banging. This is MUN after all. Everything is MUN. Are there any more questions? Yeah, please. Well, you raised your hand before, so go ahead.
Can I ask myself a question?
No.
Okay. Philip, so we brought up the idea of foosball tables in the student lounge. I have actually brought this idea up with student services, and in the past they did have a foosball table.
Do you mind, like, you don't have to beg me out, otherwise, like, you have to repeat the question anyways. Just for people to, like, it's all good. I'm sorry. I love you.
A foosball table used to exist, the people gambled on it, and it got completely destroyed in 6 months, so student services is not currently open to having one. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to argue that students can gamble on literally anything they like. They can gamble on chess, they can gamble on cards that they can bring from home, and I think that this is going to be a strong argument in shifting the administration's opinion, because having a foosball table, it's not a typical game that you would think that people gamble on. Maybe cards, maybe pool, but foosball, it's an innocent game, and anyway, people can gamble on whatever they want. So I don't think that the possibility of people gambling should be a reason to deny a foosball table. So we're going to try again, and hopefully this time they accept.
Thank you very much. I will take 2 more questions. Whoever has a question, raise your hands. Okay, I will go with Jerry and Fahima.
All right, so this question is directed to Arya. 2 years ago, Ramazeh Razak created the position of Coordinator of Internal Affairs with in mind making sure that we fulfill our legal responsibilities as an accredited student union. That being said, with the prospect of being sued and being taken to court and being bankrupt, how did you ensure this year concretely that we fulfilled our due responsibilities in terms of financial reports and other legal documents that were supposed to be handed in this year?
Thank you for your question. I think since accreditation, we've done a fantastic job at staying in line with our policies, and I think this year our coordinator of finance has done a phenomenal job at making sure that we reorganize our entire policy, and I've worked closely with him in order to make that happen with his very comprehensive and cohesive Excel spreadsheet. Finance does not fall under my category of expertise, my mandate, but I will work with him in order to make that happen. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. And lastly, Fahima, you may ask your question.
Okay, my question is directed to Sophie. So I want to ask, you guys proposed about having counselors added to the school, but paying a counselor is $20,000 at least per year extra fees. So what are you going to cut from the budget to fulfill that?
So actually we've talked to administration and some of the counselors, and we know that we have the resources for it. So what we have to do is argue with points. Considering the events that have been happening these years and the past years, we believe that having more counselors is something that is needed in the school and that represents your student needs. So whatever we have to go through, we will make sure that this is going to happen.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you all delegates for these questions and answers. We will now move on to a Q&A session from the audience to the candidates. So, people of the audience, do you have any questions? I'll start with naming, like...
Are the questions for one candidate or for everyone?
Question for one candidate, please. We will go with the guy to the right in front. It's like, ask, this auditorium.
Alright, so this one's directed at Lewis. So, bearing in mind the fact that you are an arts and science student, and so is Olivia, but precisely you are in arts and science, and that you are already very involved with many clubs, how do you expect to be able to fulfill your mandate within Congress with all these obligations and most of your daytime taken by both your academic obligations as well as your club obligations?
Okay, so in order to be so involved with the student body this year, what I did was that I quit all of my obligations outside of school. Now, for next year, what I want to do is I want to slowly pull out of all of my obligations in clubs. If I were to get MSU presidents, I would pull out of the majority of my clubs and focus on that mandate. However, I do wish to continue interacting on a daily basis with every member of the student body. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, as Adam gives the mic to you guys, next we will have the boy to the back of the center bank.
So this question is for both Louis and Olivia. So in your campaign, you guys mentioned that you're going to try to coordinate with the residents of Westmount to rent their driveways for parking. So I've spoken to other members of Congress and they say that coordinating with external sources is pretty hard, and especially since you have to coordinate with every single resident to get their driveways, and chances are you're probably going to have more demand than supply, so the price is going to be really high, and then you're going to have to ensure that students maintain their end of the bargain. So how are you going to make sure that that system is going to work and there's not going to be any like difficulties with like price and reliability and responsibility?
Okay, so as it's a system that would just be implemented, I'm not going to say that there won't be any difficulties at all. I think that's pretty high burden to place on it. But what we have seen is there have been people who have been able to park their cars, for example, behind the church, or have been able to use these services. So what we would want to do is to open a means of communication which would allow for students to do this, taking into consideration things like how far they live away from school and just their need for this opportunity.
Thank you. Next we will go with the person to this side of the auditorium.
First, I want to say I admire Honda's courage for electing this individual candidate. I have a few questions. You mentioned
that.
I just say one. I just say one. You mentioned earlier that you want to introduce a variety of cafeteria's food, and if you have taken market, you must be aware that the more demand, like the demand is in certain linear relationship with supply. And as we are all aware that sometimes some food is not as demanded as by student body, and cafeteria must produce anyway if they go through campaign. How are you going to compromise between cafeteria's profit and students' demand?
So the question for the cafeteria is about the quality of the food, and certainly I have to discuss with the managers of the cafeteria, and she told me that there's certain food that she wants to encourage and implement it, such as bubble tea and other stuff, and since those things are run by the cafeteria, I highly believe that's more feasible than cooperating with like external force. Besides, as for certain food that was not that popular, no demand, we can try to.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, all right. Next, we will have the lady to the front, the middle. Well, you actually. Wait, no.
So my question is for Lois. Is that your name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm VP External. I'm from John Evett College, and I'm VP External, and I've had the chance to work with Jerry all year, and I've learned about the MSU and how, although yes, you are an accredited union, you have a limited budget compared to other schools. And I saw in your campaign promises, you were talking about giving at least $50 for every single club, which you have a lot of clubs in the school, and you're promising a lot of other things such as more healthier options for less money. But if you want to make a significant change, you have to put a lot of money in it, if you know what I mean. So you talked about how being a leader, So how are you going
with your question.
to? Yeah, how are you going to manage all of this? How will you keep all your promises while also have all your money? Thank you.
Okay, so for the $50 minimum allocation, if you check our full platform that we posted on the Facebook group, it actually shows as $50 minimum for every club that applies. And the reason behind this is because a lot of clubs apply for budget and they'll get like $15 or nothing. And this isn't something that you really want to go through the effort of applying for. Check the full, if you check the full platform, it's written there. There's like descriptions for why it is like that. And in terms of there being a lot of work, Congress is a full team. We are 13 members, each with one.
Thank you. Do not break this gavel as it is Mr. Adam Ryder's gavel.
Sorry,
Next, we will take 3 last questions. So we will take it from Michael, we will take Siming, and we will take, cannot see your face. I don't have my glasses. Yes,
first of all, I'd just very, very quickly like to congratulate all of you for sitting up here in front of us today, and thank you for your commitment to our union and running. And you've all done an excellent job. My question was for Jerry. So about your 16 plus parties, I think it's a very valiant effort to kind of blur the lines between first and second years. But I'm just concerned about the legal issues with having 16-year-olds in an alcoholic environment, and the fact that there might be legal issues that ensue there, and we know that it's failed before. We've tried to have that happen, and it did not work. So I just wonder if this calls into question your due diligence on this particular platform idea. And
Right. So like I said, I would like to re-emphasize that I believe that having 16 plus parties would make a more inclusive Congress, making sure that the whole student population is catered towards student union events. That being said, to address your question regarding how this is going to affect like an alcoholic environment, how does that affect 16-year-olds, I think that this has been done before, and this is not going to be in the same spirit as what you would call unofficially a turn-up, a loft turn-up. This would be more of a more controlled, more formal party to make sure that bonds are created between seniors and juniors.
Fabulous. Now, Simi's question.
So my question goes for Aria and Ying. So first of all, I would just want to say congrats to everyone who's been there. I know it's not easy. And also the question is that I heard you guys are doing more work with the sexual violence policy, which we're already currently doing. I just want to know, because the committee itself falls more into coordinator of student advocacy and the coordinator of social justice, I wonder what are you guys going to bring up more as a VP and president, so that, because you guys are not part of that committee itself, what is the thing they're going to do other than what we're currently doing right now?
Thank you for your question. Regardless of the fact that that does fall under a certain your mandate, I think you've done a fantastic job. I'd like to commend the things that you've done this year in making this policy happen. But we think it's from the vision of whoever is in president and vice president, it's important to make sure that that is pushed through general assemblies, and especially club exec meetings. So if they're hosting any events on campus, off campus, even overseas, they are aware of the things that can happen, whether it's in hotel rooms or in the rooms here, as things have happened in the past, and we all are very well aware of them. And so although Mary is very safe, we just want to make it safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Lastly, we have
Thanks. Okay, can I ask really short questions? I need to know if I'm addressing this, but it's me to one person. Okay. Is anyone here running for president or vice president of another, a club, for example? I'm curious to know, is anyone, no? Okay. That, it was going to be conditional on that, so I guess the question doesn't apply then. That's it.
All right, cool. So I guess we'll take one last question from this one.
This question is for Atavan and Philip. I was wondering, for all your ideas seem really amazing. I was wondering, what did you guys do until now to implement these ideas?
So we have talked to many people outside from the school, and we're trying to make sure that this is feasible. And we have talked, many of our ideas which seem very not possible, are the STM and the Marianopolis World. And we already have people here that we already have contacted people to allow us to make sure this is feasible.
People have also been saying that the bubble tea is not very feasible. but we do have experienced bubble tea makers at our fingertips. Yes.
Thank you so much, candidates. That will be the last of the questions. Thank you all for your questions, and for those who have not been able to ask their questions, feel free to ask them as of now. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here. I will applaud you. A great round of applause. And of course, a great round of applause to our timer and gavel banger, Dima. And our cameraman, David Chow.
Good job, Ricky.
Thank you.
Dima, can you sign up?